All right, guys, we got some spicy news. And it's not only with the FTX case, it basically involves the entire crypto market, people. And this is what I mean by it involves the entire crypto market. So, Carolyn Ellison, in her testimony today, not yesterday's testimony, today's testimony might have just sunk the SEC's case against Binance. And this is what I mean. Carolyn Ellison of FTX admits that Sam bribed Chinese officials with $100 million to unfreeze their assets, purposely tried to scam Saudi investors in the final days of FTX, and intentionally tried to sic regulators on Binance to destroy his competition. So the SEC's motive for destroying Binance might have come from disgraced FTX. Now, if the biggest scam artist was using you to sic the competition, then your credibility just hit a new bottom. Not saying the SEC had a lot of credibility in the first place at this point, but it probably just hit a new low, and that will not bode well for them in the court cases against Binance, because Carolyn Ellison essentially just testified that Gary Gensler and the SEC were being used as a tool by FTX in order to destroy competition like Binance. And that's going to hurt the SEC's case once it's actually out in the open. They might actually want to investigate that, and they might want to invest the SEC and Gensler more over their role in actually aiding the SEC in getting rid of competition. That is not very good news for Gary Gensler and the SEC, them losing even more credibility than they already lost. Devastating for the agency. And it might rackle the DOJ's case against Binance as well, because, maybe they were both affected by what FTX wanted them to do. And working with FTX at this point is not going to get you too many credibility points in front of the judges at this point in court. It's probably going to tank your case. This actually might be the reason that part of the reason at least, along with Binance has gotten out of Russia, that the US DOJ and SEC seems to have shrunken back a little bit from the Binance and Coinbase allegations, but mainly the Binance allegations, and have passed it maybe on to the Brazilian authorities to take care of Binance and CZ. And Brazil is basically saying right now, we want to indict CZ because of fraud. My guess is Brazil is just waiting for a bribe from CZ and the Binance crowd. I actually think Binance is fine. I don't think they're actually in that much trouble, in my opinion. But, that's really just my opinion, and I might be wrong about that. But this is a big revelation with Gary Gensler and the SEC, and maybe even the DOJ's case against Binance, that it was very much competitively motivated, not politically motivated, but competitively motivated by one of the biggest fraudsters ever in the industry, ever in the financial industry. And this was just only part of the fraud. So if the SEC is dragged into this, they might actually offer SBF some kind of plea deal to actually spill the guts on the dealings with the SEC and spill the dealings with the SEC and everything else. And this definitely might hurt the SEC. So this is not something that the government officials really want to hear. This is not something that Gary Gensler and the SEC wants to hear, because they're definitely being dragged into this now. And it looks like after more investigation, they might just be nothing more than a attack dog for FTX. Their case against Binance, because remember, they started going after Binance only a month or two after FTX actually around the time that FTX actually fell apart, and they were actually kind of going after Binance even a little bit before that. Now, I'm not really sure if Sam Bankman-Fried told him to go after Coinbase, but he definitely, during that dinner that he had with Gary Gensler a couple of months before, he might have been laying the groundwork for these anti-competitive practices and using basically Gary Gensler and the SEC as his like attack dog against Binance and anything else that he deemed as competition. This is not good news for the SEC because they will have to defend themselves against this testimony. And I do think you're going to see corroborating testimonies among the rest of the defendants. And even if they don't ask SBF for a plea deal, they might give these guys like Carolyn Ellison and Gary Wang even more of a plea deal to spill the beans on the SEC and Gary Gensler. And I bet they will, because if they're willing to spill the beans on their friend SBF, they are going to definitely be willing to spill the beans on the SEC and maybe even embellish some of these. So the SEC could have just gotten itself into a whole lot of trouble if it can actually be linked that their enforcement actions against Binance were partially or wholly motivated by FTX. And right now, according to Carolyn Ellison's testimony, that actually might be the case. And if they offer SBF a plea deal, and it shouldn't be that great of a plea deal, and he might not take it because he's staunch in saying that he's innocent because he's delusional. But the thing is, like, if they actually link the two together, that will completely dash the SEC's case against Binance. No question about it. That will basically be out the window. I don't really know about the DOJ's case, but it does look like Sam Bankman-Fried was using government entities basically to use as his attack dog on competition. And this would ruin a lot of the SEC's cases against crypto and make their credibility just go sink further down the hole, which, by the way, is very, very good for the cryptocurrency industry. We need Gary Gensler's credibility to sink as much as possible. The more it sinks, the more a chance it's going to lose all these cases against crypto. Gary Gensler, not according to what he wants, because he wants to be remembered as a great SEC commissioner. He's going to be remembered as one of the, if not the worst SEC commissioner in all of history, losing all these lawsuits and basically being implicated in the fraud of anti-competitive practices by the biggest fraudster in the industry. Remember, he was actually having dinner with SBF a couple of months before, trying to help him get around the regulations that were set. And there's every single possibility that he's involved in the corruption now to actually take down SBF's competition. And this could actually be why he has such a vendetta against Binance right now, because they took down his BFF and his golden boy, and he wants vengeance for SBF, because SBF definitely wants them to go after CZ, and Gary Gensler might have actually followed suit. Maybe it was part of their deal that SBF said, hey, if you go after CZ, I won't spill the beans on you. But now that Carolyn Ellison has completely blown the thing apart, he might just spill the beans on Gary Gensler and the SEC, and that could be the end of Gary Gensler and the SEC. And by the way, SBF, even more than that, he might actually be in jail for life. I mean, if you look at it right now, he should accept any kind of plea deal that they give him. You know why? Because look at the admissions of Carolyn Ellison. So like basically like Sam bribed Chinese officials with $100 million to freeze their assets. That's, I mean, we don't even need to go into that. And they purposely tried to scam Saudi investors in the final days of FTX. Just this thing alone, that might actually be like the reason why he might want to actually stay in jail. Because when you try to scam Saudi investors, bad things tend to happen to you. And of course, the intentionally trying to sic regulators on Binance to destroy his competition. And it's only lunchtime, which means there's more coming. Like we thought Carolyn Ellison's testimony yesterday was bad against SBF. It's got nothing on today. Like Gary Wang's testimony, he might have whacked Sam Bankman-Fried with his Wang yesterday, but this is like beating Sam Bankman-Fried upside the head multiple times with a giant baseball bat. He's done. Like according to these crimes that they're looking at, they're looking more than like 10 years in jail. He's going to get like life in jail. And there's not one political entity like in the entire United States that would dare to step up and save him right now. The judges are not going to be too happy with him or like too nice to him. And he's going to get a harsh sentence. He's definitely going to be 100% guilty. No question about it. It's just like, how long will he actually go to jail? And will he take a plea deal to oust Gary Gensler and the SEC? And I do think that's a very real possibility now. Not so much because of like the whole Bill Hinman thing, but because he was using the SEC as an attack dog on Binance. This has nothing to do with Ethereum Gate or Ripple or anything, but this is like an even bigger case in terms of a criminal trial, because like that means like you assisted a fraudulent company to actually take down competition. And guess what? You are still doing it right now. So hopefully this just completely destroys the SEC's credibility in anything, and that gets rid of all these lawsuits. And of course, it might put the DOJ on a bit of a leash as well, because they're also going after Binance. And it could just be revealed that they're only doing it for anti-competitive practices. And SBF, definitely life in prison, maybe without parole after all these allegations have come out. They must have agreed to give Carolyn Ellison like a really sweetheart plea deal to reveal all this stuff. And I think they all already had all the dirt on her, and maybe they just gave her like 2 or 5 years in prison to reveal all this stuff about SBF, because they're going to sentence SBF extremely hard now. But remember, she still loves SBF. She just loves her life not in prison even more. So this is great news for the world of crypto, because it might actually just take down the SEC for good.